one of the things that I think has been very clear in the questions and comments that I get across social media, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, is there's more and more people getting excited by seller financing. A lot of this has undoubtedly to do with Pace Morby and the sub two community. A lot of it has to do with Cody Sanchez and what she's doing for small business. I thought what we should do is talk about seller financing from a real estate angle, really talk about the 90% CLTV loan, which I think is game changing and I wish I had before. But of course, we're going to have this conversation with Mr. Stephen Dow from Velocity Mortgage. And before we get started, we have to do that marketing thing.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to remember. So again, although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel are that of my own. So let's get it going.
Yeah. So
Actually,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just on that topic alone, I mean, I know we've talked probably in ad nauseam about the 90%. So I think for the most part, people, I guess, get it. Maybe we just refresh their memory as far as I would allow as a lender for the seller in most cases to carry a small second to combine with my first to a total of 90% leverage or 90% combined loan to value. So that allows the buyer to only have to put down 10%. So it's basically like a combination with seller financing in the event the seller doesn't have the appetite or doesn't have the equity to carry the full amount of the purchase price. So I think that's where we can kind of fit in to this, exciting kind of aspect about the market where it's at.
Yeah. So I meant what I said at the opening. This 90% CLTV loan would have allowed me to do more seller financing. So let's kind of walk this back. I've done millions of dollars in seller financing, but I don't know. Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know how you want to position this, but the reality is every seller financing deal I have done to date, the seller owned the property free and clear.
Right.
Maybe they've owned it 30 years, whatever it is. Whether it's a fourplex or we bought, I think, 15 units from one buyer or a single family home. Every seller financing deal I've done to date, the owner owned it free and clear. They wanted to be the bank. Again, we could talk about the reasons, and maybe we'll make that video number 2. Simply said, they delay taxes, they maintain income, no headaches, all of that. I know for certain that this 90% CLTV loan would have allowed me to go after more properties, because rightly or wrongly, there are plenty of people that have a lot of equity, but they don't own it free and clear.
Right.
Because the answer always is how do I pay back the bank? Now, of course, you can do sub 2 and all of that, which again, I'm not going to play in Pace's world. That's his thing.
Right.
I'm going to talk seller financing. And again, I knew this a year ago when you and I just out of nowhere created this 90% CLTV loan, the 50-40-10.
Right.
The 50-40-10 as structured will give the seller 60% of the negotiated price in cash.
Right.
Which means theoretically they could pay off 40% note, they could pay the transaction cost and walk away with cash and have a note that they own going forward. So again, I wish I had the 90% CLTV loan. I wish I would have known about it, maybe it existed, but I would have been able to negotiate more deals because, hey, I got this apartment, I got this house, I got these, I have, my portfolio is 50% loan to value. I want to sell it all. I want to sell it to one buyer.
Right.
I don't have enough cash or the lending market's too high or whatever, but you know what, Mr. Seller, I'll buy out 20 homes.
Yep.
I would do the following loan structure. You're going to get 50% cash from Velocity. You're going to get 10% mine down, and you're going to carry back 40%. So you're going to keep income, delay taxes, reduce your headaches, and you are out. I bought all 20 homes.
No more property taxes, no more homeowners insurance, no nothing. I'm just making income every month.
Yeah, and you delay taxes. You give the middle finger to the IRS. That's never a bad thing.
No. It's just the numbers have to make sense. And whether or not, as far as I think the main component is whether or not the seller has, needs all the money from the sale of the property. If they don't, and they don't have a actual game plan for that money, you know what I mean? That this is a pretty attractive alternative. I've actually seen a lot of deals that have ended up that way. It didn't start that way because the seller didn't want it, they wanted the whole thing. But then in the end, they're like, well, we were having trouble selling before. We got a buyer on the hook. Let's see what we can do. And we presented that option like, hey, if the seller's willing to carry this, we can make it happen. And so, they ended up,
Yeah.
carrying it. So it happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I want people to really hear this. There's a lot of people that talk about disrespectful offers. I've quoted Patrick Bet David. I've said it probably 100 times, if not more. But
Hmm.
sometimes a disrespectful offer is not price,
Right.
it's terms. What
Hmm.
if you could buy 20 single family homes, give the buyer or the seller their price, and then carry
Hmm.
back 40% at 1%? What
Right.
if?
Hmm.
What if? And your blended interest rate would be probably in the sixes, right? You could do the math and figure
Right.
that out. But
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
again, it's understanding a CLTV loan and how to structure it unlocks so many more deals I could have got done. And again, the opportunities are coming again for
Right.
folks. So, any kind of closing thoughts on this?
I mean, again, I think it just takes a meaningful phone call to crunch the numbers because numbers don't lie. And then
Mhm.
you present your best foot forward to the seller if that's the option, initially with communication. Because again, I had a deal that ended up that way, but the initial contract was, X. And what had happened was it was in it was in Indiana of all places. It was a retail property, and for some reason there wasn't a lot of comps, even though it's like not like next to Indianapolis. So you're thinking there's got to be something, but for whatever reason, so lower density, we found some comps there, but not enough to normally give you like a full LTV. So we made the exception to say, okay, we'll do it up to a 50% LTV of the purchase price. But other than that, we couldn't go forward, and the seller didn't have enough to make up the gap. I'm sorry, the buyer didn't have enough to make up the gap. The seller's like, look, I get it. I'm having the same situation going to any other buyer. I've got something to hook. Now I found a lender that allow me to carry the second. Let's do it. So yeah, we're closing 50, 40, 10.
Yeah. So again, folks, this when you understand real estate investing, it's not all buy out of the MLS, pay retail, get a loan from Fannie Mae.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding this is solving problems. What does the seller want? What do I want? What can they do for me? They're not all cookie cutter. In fact, this is a skill we talk about in the course. This is how to
Mm-hmm.
get started one rental at a time. This is where, when you're elite, you understand that you can get a deal done lots of ways. So, Stephen, if
Yep.
somebody wanted to talk about this program and get more, how would they reach out?
Just email is the best, always sdao@velocitymortgage.com. In the subject line, please put the acronym ORAAT to pass the firewall. Body of the email, maybe a brief description, what you're looking for. Property address would be great. City and state would be very helpful. Mid FICO score and best number to reach at, and I'll be in touch in 24, 48 hours typically.
And then lastly, folks, I have a playlist on this channel called Deep Dive. Stephen and I did a video, it might have been a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
breaking this down in detail. Go watch that for a couple hours. Let him kind of articulate that, then reach out. Stephen, thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you.